3 years ago, Ronin Vex owned this city. Tonight, he's standing outside a liquor store in a $6,000 coat that hangs off him like a funeral shroud, invisible to everyone who once feared his name. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is the woman sitting in the bakery window across the street, the one he destroyed because she refused to be owned, the one whose ghost he's been running from, the one who's laughing now with another man's hand on her wrist. Some falls break your bones. This one broke something worse. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The city looked different at Christmas. Not softer. Cities like this never became soft. But the lights changed things. They reflected off wet pavement and dirty snowbanks and made broken neighborhoods look briefly expensive. They made lonely people feel, for a few dangerous seconds, like maybe loneliness was temporary. Ronin Vex knew better. He stood outside a liquor store on the corner of Belmont and Archer, with his hands buried deep in the pockets of a coat that had once cost $6,000 and now hung loose on his thinner frame like it belonged to another man. Like it belonged to the version of himself he'd buried 3 years ago when everything he'd built came crashing down around him in a single catastrophic month. A bus hissed past him, spraying gray slush across the curb. Nobody looked twice. That was still the strangest part. Not the apartment with the cracked bathroom tiles where water pooled in the corner no matter how many times he called the super. Not the used Toyota with the bad heater that rattled like it was dying every time he turned the key. Not even the silence from men who had once answered his calls before the first ring finished. Men who now sent him straight to voicemail or blocked his number entirely. The strangest part was how quickly the city had forgotten the shape of him. 3 years ago, hostesses had straightened their spines when he walked into restaurants. Men had lowered their voices mid-sentence. Valets had actually run for his car, stumbling over themselves to reach it first. He'd moved through the world like a knife through water, and people had parted accordingly. Now people bumped shoulders with him on sidewalks and kept walking. Now cashiers looked through him. Now he was just another broke bastard in a dying coat, staring through a liquor store window at rows of cheap whiskey under fluorescent lights that made everything look like a crime scene. He'd been standing there for 10 minutes, maybe longer. Time did funny things when you were trying to talk yourself out of something you knew you were going to do anyway. The whiskey was $12. He had 14 in his wallet and maybe 30 in his checking account until next Friday, when the construction company deposited his paycheck. He'd been swinging a hammer for 6 months now. Doing grunt work for a crew that didn't know his name used to mean something. His hands had calluses now, real ones. The kind that came from actual labor instead of golf clubs and expensive handshakes. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He almost ignored it. Almost nobody called him anymore. Most of his contacts had evaporated the moment the indictments came down. The ones who hadn't evaporated had died in prison or fled to countries without extradition treaties. Ronin had managed to avoid both outcomes by cooperating with the feds, which meant he was alive and free, but also marked. A rat. A snitch. The kind of man other men crossed the street to avoid. He pulled the phone out slowly and looked at the screen. Mama. His chest tightened. He answered immediately. Mama. Ronin. Her voice sounded tired, older than he remembered, though he'd seen her just 2 weeks ago. Time was eating her up from the inside. He could hear it in the way she breathed between words. You coming tonight? He'd forgotten. No. That was a lie. He hadn't forgotten. He'd been pretending to forget because pretending was easier than admitting he didn't want to sit across from his mother on Christmas Eve and watch her try to hide how disappointed she was in the man he'd become. Yes, he said. You sound sick. I'm fine. You always say that when you're not fine. He leaned against the cold brick wall beside the liquor store and closed his eyes for a moment. Snow had started falling again, light flakes that melted immediately against his skin. I'll be there at 6. Bring bread. What kind? The good bread from the bakery on Mercer. His eyes opened. The expensive one? Yes, the expensive one. It's Christmas Eve. Don't argue with me. Something almost like a smile pulled briefly at the corner of his mouth. That tone. That specific combination of command and affection that only mothers could pull off. He'd heard it his entire life, from childhood scraped knees to federal indictments. Okay. And Ronin. Yeah. Shave before you come over. You look like a criminal." "I am a criminal." "You were a criminal. Now you're just my son who needs a shave." The line clicked dead. He stood there for another moment with the phone pressed against his ear, listening to nothing. Then he put it away and pushed off the wall. The liquor store would still be there tomorrow. Probably. He walked toward Mercer Street with his hands back in his pockets and his shoulders hunched against the cold. The snow was falling harder now, thick wet flakes that stuck to his hair and melted down the back of his neck. Chicago in December. The kind of cold that got inside your bones and stayed there. The walk took 20 minutes. By the time he reached the bakery, his face was numb, and his lungs burned from breathing frozen air. He stopped outside for a moment, looking through the window at the warm yellow light and the people inside moving slowly between tables like everything was fine, like the world wasn't constantly trying to grind them down into dust. Inside, everything smelled like cinnamon and coffee and warm bread, the kind of smell that belonged to normal lives. The kind of smell he had never paid attention to before his own life had stopped being loud enough to drown everything else out. A little girl nearly crashed into him near the counter. She was maybe 6 years old, wearing a red coat with white fur around the hood and carrying a cookie the size of her face. "Sorry," she said breathlessly, before running back toward her mother. Ronin stepped aside automatically. The mother glanced at him briefly, a quick assessment, woman alone with child, strange man nearby, and then dismissed him, not a threat, just another tired person trying to get through the day. "You okay there, sir?" The cashier was looking at him, young guy, maybe 20, with a name tag that said Marcus, and a smile that seemed genuine. "Sir. Not boss. Not Mr. Vex. Just sir." "Yeah," Ronin said quietly. "I'm okay." He ordered the bread his mother wanted. The good bread. $7 for a single loaf because apparently flour and yeast cost more when you shape them correctly and bake them in a nice oven. While Marcus rang him up, Ronin let his eyes drift around the bakery, and that's when his entire body went still. Celeste Monteith sat near the window with a man Ronin had never seen before. Not glamorous now. Not the redcoat fantasy from 3 winters ago when she'd been his mistress, and his obsession, and the thing he'd destroyed because he couldn't figure out how to love something without trying to own it completely. Just a woman in a green sweater with tired eyes and flour on one sleeve, laughing softly while a dark-haired man across from her stirred sugar into her coffee. The man touched her wrist. Small touch. Familiar touch. A love touch. The kind of touch that came from months or years of being together, from building the habit of each other, from learning exactly where to place your hand so the other person knew they weren't alone. Ronin's throat closed. He couldn't move. Celeste looked up, saw him. The color left her face. For one terrible second, all 3 of them froze there together, while snow drifted quietly outside the bakery windows, and Frank Sinatra played over the speakers, and the little girl in the red coat laughed somewhere behind them. Then Celeste stood up. The man beside her frowned. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," she said too quickly. "1 second." She crossed the bakery slowly. Ronin stayed where he was, gripping the edge of the counter hard enough to hurt. "Hi," she said carefully. "Hi. You look—" She stopped. There was no polite ending to that sentence. He knew what he looked like, 20 pounds lighter than the last time she'd seen him, unshaven, exhausted, wearing a coat that used to fit and didn't anymore. "You too," Ronin said. That almost made her laugh. Almost. But the sound died in her throat before it could become real. "You okay?" she asked. The question surprised him. Not because she cared. He knew she didn't, not really. Not after everything he'd put her through. But because she was kind enough to ask anyway. Because despite everything, Celeste had never been cruel. That had been his job. "Yeah," he lied. She glanced toward the counter where the bread sat wrapped in brown paper, waiting for him to pick it up and leave. "Your mom?" "It's Miss Eve." "Still making that soup?" "Yeah." That soup was incredible. Silence settled between them. Not angry, just awkward in the way things become awkward when the fantasy finally dies and 2 people are left standing there with the ordinary truth of who they actually are. Celeste had been beautiful once. Still was, probably, if you looked at her the right way. But Ronin couldn't see her clearly anymore. His memory of her had been replaced by something else, by the sound of her crying in his apartment after he'd screamed at her for talking to another man at a party, By the look on her face when she'd tried to leave and he'd blocked the door. By the text messages he'd sent at 3 in the morning demanding to know where she was and who she was with. By the restraining order she'd filed 6 months before everything else fell apart. "I'm sorry," Celeste said suddenly. "For what?" "For all of it." He looked at her for a long moment. She meant it. He could see that. She was apologizing for her part in their destruction, even though they both knew whose fault it really was. Then he shook his head once. "No," he said quietly. "You weren't the problem." Something moved in her face at that. Relief, maybe. Or sadness. Or just exhaustion from carrying around the weight of their shared history. The man by the window was watching now, confused but patient. He didn't look jealous. Didn't look threatened. Just concerned. The kind of concern that came from actually caring about someone instead of just wanting to control them. Celeste followed Ronin's gaze and softened slightly. "That's Daniel," she said. "He owns the bakery." Ronin nodded. Of course he did. Of course Celeste had ended up with someone who owned a bakery and made bread with his hands, and probably didn't scream at her for imagined betrayals at 2 in the morning. "He good to you?" "Yes." "Good." Another silence. Then Celeste said very gently, "She was right about you, you know." He didn't have to ask who she meant. "Iris." The name hung between them unspoken. "I know. You understand it now." "Yeah." "And?" Ronin looked down at the wrapped bread in his hands. Snow melted slowly on the shoulders of his coat, leaving dark, wet patches on the expensive fabric. "And it's a little late," he said. Celeste's eyes filled briefly with something soft and human, something that looked almost like pity, but wasn't quite. "Maybe," she said, "but late is still better than never." He let out a quiet breath through his nose. "Merry Christmas, Celeste." "Merry Christmas, Ronin." She walked back to the table. Daniel looked up at her, asked something quietly. She answered, shaking her head, touching his shoulder. The two of them sat back down together like people who had already built the habit of each other, like people who didn't have to explain their entire histories every time a ghost from the past showed up. Ronin picked up the bread and left the bakery without looking back. Outside, the snow was falling harder, fat flakes that accumulated quickly on the sidewalk and made the streetlights look softer than they were. He walked to his car and sat in the driver's seat for a long time with the engine off, staring at nothing. His hands were shaking. He gripped the steering wheel until they stopped. Then he started the car and drove toward Westbrook. By the time he reached his mother's house, his shoulders were white with snow and his face was numb again, and the bread had gone cold in the passenger seat. Ronin Vex opened the door before he knocked. "Mama, how did you—" "I saw your car." She pulled him inside immediately. The house smelled like garlic and rosemary and soup, like every Christmas Eve from his childhood, like home, or the closest thing he still had to one. "You're freezing," she muttered, taking his coat. "Honestly, Ronin, you look like death." "Merry Christmas to you, too." She hung up the coat and turned back toward him. Then, unexpectedly, she touched his cheek, very lightly, like he was something fragile that might break under too much pressure. He almost broke apart from it. "You're too thin," she said softly. "I know." "You eating?" "Sometimes." That's not an answer. She walked back toward the kitchen. "Come help me." He followed her. The kitchen looked smaller than he remembered from childhood, or maybe he was finally seeing it correctly. Maybe he'd been looking at everything wrong for his entire life, measuring things by their price instead of their value. They cooked in silence for a while. Anna moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, stirring pots and checking temperatures and adjusting seasonings without measuring anything. The way women her age cooked, the way women who'd been feeding families for 50 years cooked. Ronin chopped vegetables at the counter. Carrots first, then celery, then onions that made his eyes water. Halfway through slicing the third carrot, Anna said quietly, "I saw her." The knife paused in Ronin's hand. "When?" 2 months ago. He looked up sharply. His mother was standing at the stove with her back to him, stirring the soup slowly. She didn't turn around. "Mama." "She came here." His pulse started climbing immediately. His hands went cold. "What?" "She came to the house." "When?" "In October." What did she want? Anna glanced at him over her shoulder. Her face was calm, unreadable, the way it got when she'd already made a decision and wasn't interested in arguing about it. To make sure I was okay. The knife slipped slightly against the carrot. Ronin set it down carefully before he cut himself. She brought groceries, Anna continued, and flowers, yellow ones. She remembered those were my favorite. Ronin stared at her. He couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. She stayed 40 minutes. We drank tea. What did she say? She asked if I needed anything. That's it? What else should she have said? He looked away. His mother stirred the soup slowly, methodically, like nothing extraordinary had just happened. Like Iris Vale hadn't walked back into their lives after 3 years of silence. She was kind to me, Ronin, Anna said after a while. Kinder than you deserved. I know. She didn't ask about you. That hurt worse than anything else could have. Worse than prison would have hurt. Worse than dying. She asked me not to tell you she came. Why are you telling me now? Because it's Christmas Eve, Anna said simply, and because I'm old and tired and I no longer see the point in carrying information to my grave. He swallowed hard. His hands were shaking again. She looked happy? Anna considered the question carefully. She turned off the burner and set down the spoon. Then she turned to face him fully. No, she said at last. Not happy. His chest tightened. Then she added softly, peaceful. That hurt worse, because he understood what it meant. Happy meant she was still fighting something, still struggling with something, still engaged with the world in a way that left room for him to matter. But peaceful meant she'd truly left him behind. Peaceful meant she'd done the work of putting him in the past and moving forward and building something new. No hate, no obsession, no unfinished business, nothing. He had become a closed chapter in the life of a woman who had once shared his bed and his secrets in his darkest moments. Did she ask about me at all? No. The word landed like a punch. Anna crossed the kitchen and put her hand on his shoulder. That's good, Ronin. That means she's healed. I don't want her to be healed. The words came out before he could stop them. Anna's face hardened. Too bad. You don't get to want things from her anymore? He flinched. His mother's hand dropped away. You had her, Anna said quietly, and you crushed her. You took a strong, brilliant woman and you tried to break her down into something you could control. And when she wouldn't break, you broke yourself trying. Mama, I loved you anyway. I'm your mother. That's my job. But I won't pretend I don't understand why she ran. The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Ronin turned back to the carrots. He picked up the knife. His hands were still shaking. Dinner lasted almost 3 hours. They ate soup and bread and roasted vegetables while an old Frank Sinatra record played quietly in the living room. At one point, his mother fell asleep briefly in her chair after too much wine, her head tilted back and her mouth slightly open. Ronin covered her with a blanket. Then he stood by the kitchen window, looking out at the snow-covered street. A peaceful woman. That was what Iris had become. Not triumphant, not cruel, not waiting for him to come crawling back. Just peaceful. And somehow that was the final punishment, because peace meant she had truly let him go. She'd done the thing he'd never been able to do. She'd released him completely, not with anger or bitterness or revenge, just with the quiet finality of someone closing a door and walking away. He pressed his forehead against the cold glass. His reflection stared back at him, ghostly and thin. Around midnight, Anna woke up and pointed toward the couch. You're staying here tonight. Mama, I can drive. In that weather? Sit down and stop being stupid. He sat down. She looked at him for a long moment from her chair. Her eyes were clearer now, sharp, the way they used to be when he was a kid and she could read his mind just by looking at his face. Then she said quietly, You loved her. The room went very still. No, Ronin said automatically. Anna snorted softly. There you go again. Mama, You men, she muttered, always turning love into ownership until the thing dies in your hands. He looked down at the floor. The old hardwood was scratched and worn. His father had installed it 30 years ago, back when Ronin was still small enough to believe his parents would live forever. She terrified you, Anna said. It wasn't a question. Yes? And instead of becoming worthy of her, you tried to make her smaller. His throat tightened painfully. Yes. His mother nodded once, as if confirming something she had already known. Then she reached for her wine again and took a long, slow sip. Well, she said tiredly, at least one of us in this family finally figured something out before dying. The words settled hard in the room. Ronin stared at the dark window. Snow kept falling outside, thick and steady, covering everything in white, making the world look clean, making broken things look whole. He thought about Iris walking up the steps to this house, carrying groceries, carrying flowers, asking his mother if she needed anything, not because she wanted something in return, not because she was playing some long game, just because she was kind, because that was who she was, and he'd tried to destroy that. He'd seen her kindness and mistaken it for weakness. He'd seen her gentleness and thought it meant she could be controlled. He'd looked at the most extraordinary woman he'd ever met and decided she needed to be smaller, quieter, more manageable, more his, and when she'd refused, he'd punished her for it. The memory hit him suddenly, 3 years ago, the night she'd left. He'd come home late from a meeting, already angry, already looking for a fight because his business was failing and the feds were circling and he needed someone to blame. She'd been reading in bed, just reading, and he'd exploded. He couldn't even remember what he'd said now, something about her being cold, something about her not caring about his problems, something cruel and calculated and designed to hurt. She'd closed the book, looked at him, said quietly, "I can't do this anymore." And he'd lost his mind. He'd screamed at her, called her ungrateful, reminded her of everything he'd given her, the apartment, the car, the jewelry. As if those things meant she owed him her entire self. She'd packed a bag. He'd followed her through the apartment, still yelling, still trying to make her stay through sheer force of will. At the door, she'd turned back, and the look on her face had been worse than anger. It had been pity. "I hope you figure it out," she'd said. Then she'd left. He'd stood in the doorway, watching her walk to the elevator, watched the doors close, watched her disappear, and he'd convinced himself she'd come back. They always came back. Except she hadn't. 6 months later, the indictments came down. 6 months after that, he'd cooperated with the feds to avoid prison time. And now here he was, 3 years later, still thinking about her, still destroyed by her absence. "Go to sleep, Ronin," his mother said softly. He blinked. She was standing now, clearing dishes, moving slowly through the kitchen like a woman who'd done this 10,000 times before. "You need rest." "I can't sleep." "Then lie down and pretend. But stop staring out that window like you're waiting for something that isn't coming." He wanted to argue, but she was right. She was always right. He lay down on the couch. Anna covered him with a second blanket. Then she turned off most of the lights and disappeared into her bedroom. Ronin stared at the ceiling. Outside, the snow kept falling. Somewhere far north of the city, Iris Vale was living a life he would never be part of again. A peaceful life. A good life. A life built carefully after the ruin he'd helped create. And he deserved every second of this absence. Every moment of this silence. Every long, cold night alone. Because he'd had something extraordinary. And he'd crushed it. Not out of hate, out of fear. Because loving someone without controlling them required becoming someone better, and he hadn't been willing to do the work. The clock on the wall ticked quietly. Midnight passed. Christmas Day arrived, and Ronin Vex lay awake in his mother's living room, finally understanding exactly what he'd lost and exactly why he deserved to lose it, while somewhere far away the woman he'd destroyed had built herself back into someone whole, someone peaceful, someone who no longer needed him at all. Ronin woke up at dawn with his neck twisted wrong and his mouth tasting like copper. For a few seconds, he didn't know where he was. Then he saw the familiar water stain on his mother's ceiling, the one shaped like a bird or maybe a fist, depending on how you looked at it, and remembered. Christmas morning. His mother's couch. The conversation about Iris. He sat up slowly, every muscle in his back screaming. The house was quiet. Too quiet. He checked his phone. 6:17 in the morning. His mother wouldn't be up for another hour at least, maybe longer after all that wine. He stood up and walked to the bathroom. His reflection in the mirror looked worse than it had yesterday. Eyes bloodshot, jaw covered in 3 days of stubble that had crossed the line from rugged into homeless. The scar above his left eyebrow, courtesy of a broken bottle in county lockup while he was waiting for his plea deal to process, had faded to a pale line, but it was still there. Still visible. Still a reminder of how far he'd fallen. He splashed cold water on his face. Then he did something he hadn't done in months. He opened his phone and typed her name into the search bar. Iris Vale. His finger hovered over the enter button. Don't. He pressed it anyway. The results loaded slowly on his mother's terrible Wi-Fi. Nothing recent. That was the first thing he noticed. No social media accounts, no news articles from the past 2 years. No trace of her digital footprint at all, except for a few old mentions from before everything exploded. She'd disappeared. Not physically. His mother had seen her, so she was still alive, still in the city somewhere. But digitally, deliberately. She'd erased herself. Or maybe she just decided she didn't need the world to know where she was anymore. He kept scrolling. Found an old photo from 4 years ago, a charity gala downtown, back when he was still someone and she was still his. She was wearing a black dress, hair pulled back, smiling at something off camera. He was next to her in the photo, hand on her lower back, looking at whoever was talking to them instead of looking at her. Not present, not really there. Even in the photo, you could see it. The distance between them, the way his attention was already somewhere else. He stared at the image until his phone screen went dark. Then he deleted his search history and put the phone away. His mother found him in the kitchen 20 minutes later, standing at the counter with a cup of instant coffee that had gone cold in his hands. "You look worse," she said. "Good morning to you too. Don't be smart with me. It's Christmas." She moved past him and started pulling things out of the refrigerator. Eggs, butter, yesterday's bread. "You're making breakfast? You think I'm going to let you leave on an empty stomach? I should get going." "Sit down." He sat down. They ate in silence. Scrambled eggs and toast. Simple food. The kind his mother had been making for 50 years. Halfway through, she said, "What are you going to do?" He looked up. "About what?" "Don't play stupid. About her." "There's nothing to do." "You're going to look for her." It wasn't a question. He set down his fork. "No." "Ronin." "I'm not. She doesn't want to be found." "That's very mature of you." "I'm being serious." "So am I." His mother leaned back in her chair. "You finally understand what you did wrong, and now you want to fix it." "There's nothing to fix. It's over." "Is it?" The question hung between them. He didn't answer. Anna sighed deeply. "You know what your problem is?" "I'm sure you're going to tell me." "You think love is something you deserve, something you earn by being good enough. But that's not how it works." "Then how does it work?" "You just love someone, and they either love you back or they don't. And if they don't, you move on." "She loved me." "Yes. And you destroyed that love, and now it's gone. So what are you going to do about it?" He stared at his plate. "Nothing." "Liar?" She stood up and started clearing dishes. He helped her. When the kitchen was clean, he put on his coat and kissed her cheek. "Thank you for dinner." "Drive safe." "I will." "And Ronin." He stopped at the door. "Leave her alone." He didn't respond. Just walked out into the cold morning air where his car was buried under 6 inches of fresh snow. The drive back to his apartment took 40 minutes. Traffic was light. Most people were still home with their families, opening presents, pretending everything was fine. He parked in his usual spot behind the building and sat there for a while with the engine running and the heat blasting. His phone buzzed. Text message from a number he didn't recognize. "Merry Christmas, asshole." He stared at it. Then another message came through. "This is Marcus." Marcus. It took him a second to place the name. Then he remembered. Marcus Chen, his old business partner. The one who'd gone to prison instead of cooperating. The one who'd sent him a single text message 3 years ago that just said, "I hope you die slow." "How'd you get this number?" The response came immediately. "I know people. What do you want? Just wanted to remind you that you're still a rat." Ronin's jaw clenched. "I did what I had to do. You fucked us all to save yourself. I had a choice. Prison or cooperation. We all had that choice. Most of us made the right one. There is no right one. Keep telling yourself that." Another message. "I'm out now. Been out 3 months." Ronin's stomach dropped. "Good for you. You should be scared. Are you threatening me?" No threats, just facts. People remember what you did. People talk. I don't care what people say. You will. The messages stopped. Ronin sat there staring at his phone. Marcus was out. That changed things. Not because Marcus was dangerous. He wasn't. Not really. He was a numbers guy, an accountant who'd gotten in over his head running money for people who didn't like paperwork. But Marcus knew people, and those people didn't forget. He got out of the car and went upstairs to his apartment. Inside, everything smelled like mildew and old takeout. He needed to clean. He needed to do a lot of things. Instead, he sat on the edge of his bed and opened his phone again. Pulled up that old photo of Iris. Zoomed in on her face. She looked happy in the picture. But he knew better now. He could see the tightness around her eyes. The way her smile didn't quite reach them. The tension in her shoulders even though she was supposed to be relaxed. She'd been miserable. With him. Because of him. And he'd been too blind to see it. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Ronin Vex? Woman's voice, professional, cold. Who's asking? My name is Detective Sarah Brennan. I'm with the Chicago PD. I need to ask you some questions about Marcus Chen. His blood went cold. What about him? He was found dead this morning. The room tilted. What? His body was discovered in an alley off Cicero Avenue around 5 a.m. Multiple gunshot wounds. We're treating it as a homicide. Ronin couldn't breathe. When was the last time you had contact with Mr. Chen? This morning. He texted me. What did the text say? Just Merry Christmas, that kind of thing? Did he threaten you? No. The lie came automatically. Mr. Vex, I need you to come down to the station. Am I a suspect? We're just gathering information. You and Mr. Chen had a complicated history. That was one way to put it. I can come in tomorrow. I'd prefer today. It's Christmas. And a man is dead. So how about we both make sacrifices? He closed his eyes. What time? 2 o'clock. District 12. She hung up. Ronin sat there holding his phone. Marcus was dead. Shot multiple times. And the last person he'd texted was Ronin. This was bad. This was very bad. He stood up and started pacing. His apartment suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer, like they were pressing in on him from all sides. He needed to think. Marcus had said people remembered, people talked, and now Marcus was dead, which meant either someone from the old organization had found him and shut him up, or something else was happening, something bigger, something that might circle back to Ronin. He grabbed his coat and left the apartment. He didn't have a plan. He just knew he couldn't stay there. The streets were still quiet. He walked without direction, hands in pockets, head down. After 20 minutes, he found himself outside a bar on Western Avenue. Mulligan's. Old Dive. The kind of place that opened at 10 a.m. and stopped asking questions. He went inside. The bartender was a woman in her 50s with bleached hair and tired eyes. Whiskey, Ronin said. What kind? Cheap. She poured him a double without comment. He drank it in 2 swallows. Another. She poured again. This one he sipped. The bar was mostly empty. Just him and an old man at the other end watching a basketball game on the TV above the bottles. Ronin's phone buzzed. Text from a blocked number. We need to talk. His pulse jumped. Who is this? A friend. I don't have friends. You need one. Marcus isn't the only one in danger. What are you talking about? Meet me. Garfield Park. The pavilion near the pond. 1 hour. Why should I trust you? Because if you don't, you're next. The messages stopped. Ronin stared at his phone. This was insane. This was obviously a trap. He paid for his drinks and left the bar. 40 minutes later, he was standing in Garfield Park near the pavilion, watching the empty pond where ice had started to form around the edges. The park was deserted. Nobody came to parks on Christmas Day, especially not parks in neighborhoods like this. He checked his phone. 1:30. He was early. He waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. At 1:45, a figure appeared from the tree line. Woman, tall, wearing a long black coat and a scarf wrapped around the lower half of her face. She walked directly toward him. He tensed. When she got close enough, she pulled down the scarf. Ronan's breath caught. Hello, Ronin. Not Iris, but close. Very close. Same dark eyes, same bone structure. Younger, though, mid-20s maybe. Who are you? My name is Lucia Reeves. I'm Iris's sister. His mind went blank. Iris doesn't have a sister. Half-sister. Different fathers. She doesn't talk about me much. Why are you here? Because you're in danger, and despite everything you did to my sister, she doesn't want you dead. What are you talking about? Lucia looked around the empty park, then back at him. Marcus Chen wasn't killed by your old associates. He was killed by Adrian Hale's people. The name hit him like a fist. Adrian Hale. Iris's... what? Husband? Partner? The man she'd ended up with after leaving Ronin. Why would Adrian kill Marcus? Because Marcus was about to do something stupid. He was planning to come after you, and Adrian decided that wasn't going to happen. Why does Adrian care what happens to me? He doesn't, but Iris does. And what Iris wants, Adrian makes happen. Ronin's throat closed. She sent you? No, she doesn't know I'm here. If she did, she'd be furious. Then why are you here? Because Adrian is getting sloppy. Marcus wasn't the first. There have been others. People from your old life who've been showing interest in finding you, and they keep disappearing. How many? 3 in the last 6 months. Marcus makes 4. His legs felt weak. Who else? Jimmy Russo, Teresa Vance, and that federal prosecutor who handled your case. What was his name? Mitchell. Right, Mitchell. Mitchell is dead? Made to look like a heart attack. Very clean. Very professional. Ronin sat down hard on the nearest bench. This couldn't be happening. Why? Because Adrian Hale is a dangerous man who takes care of problems before they become problems. And apparently, you're a problem worth protecting. I don't need protection. You don't get a choice. Iris still has feelings for you, complicated feelings, and Adrian is eliminating anyone who might hurt you. She should hate me. She probably does. But she also doesn't want you dead. People are complicated. I need to talk to her. No? I need to tell her to stop this. You think she knows? She doesn't. Adrian keeps her clean. She has a daughter now, a life. She doesn't need to know that her psychotic husband is murdering people on her behalf. He's her husband? Common law. They have a kid together? Close enough. Ronin's chest felt tight. A daughter. Iris had a daughter with Adrian Hale. How old? The kid? 2. Maybe 2.5. He did the math. She'd gotten pregnant less than a year after leaving him. Maybe she'd already been seeing Adrian. Maybe she'd been planning her escape long before that final night. I need to see her. Absolutely not. She needs to know what he's doing. And what happens when you tell her? She confronts Adrian. Adrian admits it. And then what? You think she's going to thank you for destroying her life again? I'm not trying to destroy anything. You don't have to try. You're poison, Ronin. Everything you touch turns to shit. The words hit harder than they should have. Maybe because they were true. Then why are you telling me this? Because I'm giving you a choice. Leave town. Tonight. Drive south until you hit the Gulf and then keep going. Change your name. Start over. Let Adrian think you're gone. Or he'll decide you're too much of a liability and you'll end up like Marcus. I didn't do anything. Doesn't matter. You exist. And as long as you exist, Iris thinks about you. And as long as she thinks about you, Adrian sees you as a threat. That's insane. That's love. The kind of love that burns everything down to protect what's left. She pulled her scarf back up over her face. You have 24 hours. After that, I can't help you. Wait. She stopped. Is she happy? Lucia turned back slightly. Does it matter? Yes. She studied him for a long moment. No, she said finally. She's not happy. She's surviving. There's a difference. What does that mean? It means Adrian takes care of her, protects her, gives her everything she needs. But he's not you. I thought that was the point. It is. But sometimes people don't want what's good for them. Sometimes they want what destroys them. Is he good to her? He's obsessed with her, same as you were, just better at hiding it. Does he hurt her? Not physically, but there are other ways to cage someone. She started walking away. 24 hours, Ronin. Don't waste them. He watched her disappear into the trees. Then he sat there alone in the freezing park while the sun started to sink behind the buildings and his entire world rearranged itself into something he didn't recognize. Adrian Hale was killing people to protect him. No, to protect Iris from the pain of knowing he was in danger, which was somehow worse, because it meant she still cared. After everything. After 3 years of silence. She still cared enough that her husband was committing murder to keep her from being hurt, and Ronin had no idea what to do with that information. He stood up and started walking. His phone buzzed. Detective Brennan. Where are you? You missed your appointment. He'd completely forgotten. Sorry. Emergency. Can we reschedule? No. Come in now or I'm issuing a warrant. For what? For questioning in a homicide. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. He changed direction and headed toward District 12. The police station was busy despite the holiday. Apparently crime didn't take Christmas off. Detective Brennan met him in the lobby. She was younger than she'd sounded on the phone. Maybe 40. Sharp eyes. No wedding ring. Mr. Vex. Detective. Follow me. She led him to an interview room. Small space, table, 2 chairs, mirror on one wall that was obviously two-way glass. Sit. He sat. She sat across from him and pulled out a notepad. Tell me about Marcus Chen. We used to work together. Doing what? Real estate development. That's a creative way to describe money laundering. He didn't respond. When was the last time you saw him in person? 3 years ago, right before he went to prison. And this morning he texted you. Yes. What did he say? Ronin pulled out his phone and showed her the messages. She read them carefully. He called you a rat? Yes. Because you cooperated with federal prosecutor? Yes. And he threatened you? He was just talking. Marcus wasn't violent. Someone shot him 6 times. That's pretty violent. It wasn't me. Where were you between 4 and 6 this morning? Asleep. At my mother's house in Westbrook. Can she verify that? Yes. Give me her number. He did. Brennan made a note. Do you own a gun, Mr. Vex? No. Ever owned one? No. Do you know anyone who wanted Marcus Chen dead? Yes. Adrian Hale. But he couldn't say that. Half the city probably wanted him dead. He knew too much. About what? About the people we worked for. Which people? I don't know names. You testified about them. I testified about financial transactions. I never met most of them. She leaned back and studied him. You're lying. I'm not. You're a terrible liar. I'm telling you what I know. No, you're telling me what you think I want to hear. There's a difference. She stood up. Don't leave town, Mr. Vex. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but the day is young. She opened the door. You can go. He walked out of the station into the late afternoon cold. His phone buzzed immediately. Another blocked number. You talked to the police. Who is this? Adrian? His blood froze. How do you know that? I know everything. It's my job. Leave me alone. I can't do that. You're a problem. I'm not a threat to you. You're a threat to her, which makes you a threat to me. I don't want anything from her. Yes, you do. You want forgiveness. You want closure. You want her to tell you it's okay. Ronin stopped walking. It's not okay. It will never be okay. And if you try to see her, I'll kill you myself. Your sister already gave me that message. Lucia doesn't speak for me. I'm speaking for me. Why are you texting me? Because I want you to understand something. Iris is mine, not in the way you tried to own her, but mine because she chose me. And I will burn this entire city down before I let you take her away from me. I'm not trying to take her anywhere. Then leave. Tonight. Or I'll make you leave. You've already killed 4 people. 5, actually. I forgot to mention the private investigator you hired 2 years ago. Ronin's mind went blank. He'd forgotten about that. Right after his plea deal finalized, he'd hired someone to find Iris, just to make sure she was okay. The investigator had stopped returning his calls after 3 weeks. Ronin had assumed he'd just taken the money and run. You killed him for looking for her? I killed him for getting close. He found the house. He took photos. That's when I decided you needed to be taught a lesson. What lesson? That she's not yours anymore. That you don't get to check on her. That you don't get to know where she lives or what she looks like or whether she's happy. I just want to know she's okay. She's better than okay. She has everything. A home, a family, safety. Does she know what you're doing? No, and she never will. Unless you tell her. Someone's going to figure this out. No one will figure it out. I'm very good at my job. What is your job? I solve problems. Permanently. The line went dead. Ronin stood on the sidewalk while people walked past him in the fading daylight. He was trapped. If he stayed, Adrian would kill him. If he went to Iris, Adrian would kill him. If he went to the police with any of this, Adrian would kill him, and probably the police too. There was no good option, no way out. He started walking again. His feet carried him without conscious direction. 20 minutes later, he found himself standing outside a building he recognized. The old office building where his company used to be headquartered. Before the collapse. Before everything. The lobby had new tenants now. A tech startup. Some kind of app company. He stared up at the windows where his corner office used to be. Top floor. Southeast corner. View of the whole city. He'd stood at those windows and felt like a god. And now he couldn't even get past the front desk. His phone buzzed. Text from his mother. Did you make it home safe? Yes. Are you okay? No. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Come back. Stay another night. I can't. Why not? I have things to do. What things? He didn't answer. Another message came through. Don't do anything stupid, Ronin. I won't. Promise me. I promise. Another lie. He was getting good at those. He walked for another hour. By the time he reached his apartment, it was full dark and his fingers were numb and his mind had made itself up. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was going to see Iris one last time. Not to ask for forgiveness, not to try to win her back, just to tell her the truth about what Adrian was doing, because she deserved to know, even if it destroyed her, even if it destroyed them both. He went inside and started packing. Not much. Just a bag with some clothes and the money he had stashed in the back of his closet. $3,000. His emergency fund. He grabbed his car keys. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Mr. Vex? Different voice. Male. Deep. Who's this? My name is Thomas Reeves. I'm Iris's father. Ronin's hand tightened on the phone. How did you get this number? Lucia gave it to me. She said you might need help. I don't need anything. I think you do. Adrian Hale is a dangerous man. I've noticed. He's not just dangerous to you, he's dangerous to my daughter. Then get her away from him. I can't. She won't leave. She thinks she owes him something. Why? Because he saved her life 3 years ago, right after you destroyed it. The words hit hard. What happened? You don't know? Know what? Silence on the line, then, she tried to kill herself, Mr. Vex. 2 months after she left you. Pills. Nearly succeeded. Adrian found her in time. The world stopped. No. Yes. And ever since then, she's been tied to him. Gratitude, debt, love, I don't know which. Maybe all 3. But she won't leave. Ronin couldn't breathe, couldn't think. That's not possible. It's very possible. You broke her. Adrian put her back together, and now she belongs to him. She doesn't belong to anyone. Tell that to Adrian. Where is she? I can't tell you that. Then why did you call? Because I need your help. Adrian is getting more unstable, more paranoid, and my daughter is trapped in the middle of it with my granddaughter. What do you want me to do? I want you to disappear, leave Chicago, let Adrian think you're gone. Give my daughter a chance to build a normal life. With a murderer? With a man who loves her, even if his love is twisted. That's not love, that's ownership. And you would know, wouldn't you? The words landed like a slap. I made mistakes. You made choices, and my daughter paid for them. And now you're going to make the right choice and leave her alone. Or more people die. Maybe even you. Maybe even people you care about. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Adrian doesn't play games. He eliminates problems. And you're the biggest problem he's ever faced. Why? Because Iris still loves you, and Adrian knows it, and that's driving him insane. The line went dead. Ronin stood in his apartment with his packed bag at his feet and his keys in his hand. She still loved him, after everything, after 3 years. She still loved him. And that love was going to get people killed, including possibly him, including possibly her. He looked at the bag, looked at the keys, looked at the door, and made the only choice that made sense anymore. The choice that would either save them all or destroy what was left. He grabbed the bag, walked out the door, and started driving north toward Holloway Ridge, where Iris Vale lived with the man who loved her enough to kill for her. And Ronin was about to walk straight into that fire and burn them all down if that's what it took to set her free. The drive north took 2 hours through snow that had started falling again, thick and heavy, turning the highway into a blur of white and red taillights. Ronin gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. His mind kept replaying Thomas Reeves's words. She tried to kill herself. Pills. Nearly succeeded. Because of him. Because of what he'd done to her. The guilt sat in his chest like a stone, heavy and cold and impossible to swallow. He should turn around. He knew that. Every rational part of his brain was screaming at him to turn the car around and drive south, like Lucia had told him to. Disappear. Let Iris live her life. Stop being the poison that destroyed everything he touched. But he couldn't. Not anymore. Because if Adrian was killing people to protect her, she needed to know. Even if it destroyed her, even if she hated him for telling her, she deserved the truth. Holloway Ridge wasn't a town so much as a collection of old estates scattered across rolling hills an hour north of the city. Old money, the kind of place where people had gates and long driveways and neighbors you never saw. Ronin had been here once before, 4 years ago, back when he was still someone. He'd come to a fundraiser at one of the properties, some charity event he couldn't even remember the purpose of now. He'd brought Iris, showed her off like a prize, spent the whole night introducing her as my Iris, while she smiled politely and drank too much wine. He thought she was having fun. He'd been wrong about everything. His GPS led him off the main road onto a smaller one that wound through dense woods. The snow was deeper here, untouched except for a few tire tracks that disappeared around curves. After 20 minutes, he saw the sign. Private property. No trespassing. He kept driving. The road narrowed. Trees pressed in on both sides, branches heavy with snow that occasionally dumped onto his windshield when the wind picked up. Then he saw the house. Not a house. A mansion. Stone walls. 3 stories. Massive windows that glowed warm and yellow against the darkness. A circular driveway with a fountain in the center, frozen now, covered in snow. 2 cars parked near the front entrance, a black Range Rover, and a silver Audi. Ronin pulled up behind them and turned off his engine. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at the house. She was inside, right now. Maybe in the kitchen, maybe upstairs putting her daughter to bed, maybe sitting by a fire reading while Adrian worked on whatever it was men like Adrian worked on. Living a life Ronin would never be part of. He got out of the car. The cold hit him immediately, sharp and brutal. He walked toward the front door. His legs felt unsteady. His heart was hammering so hard he could feel it in his throat. He raised his hand to knock. The door opened before his knuckles touched wood. Adrian Hale stood in the doorway. Tall, maybe 6'2". Dark hair graying at the temples. Sharp suit even at home. Eyes like ice. "I was wondering when you'd show up," Adrian said calmly. Ronin's mouth went dry. "I need to talk to Iris." "No. It's important." "I don't care." "She deserves to know what you're doing." Adrian smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Come in, Ronin. Let's have a conversation." "I'm not here to talk to you." "Yes, you are. Because if you make a scene out here, Iris will hear, and then I'll have to explain why her ex-boyfriend showed up at our home on Christmas night, and that will upset her, and I don't like it when she's upset." Ronin hesitated. Adrian stepped aside. "Come in. Or leave. But decide quickly. It's cold and you're letting the heat out." Ronin walked inside. The house was exactly what he'd expected. Expensive. Tasteful. The kind of place that whispered money instead of shouting it. Hardwood floors. Original art on the walls. A chandelier in the entryway that probably cost more than Ronin's car. Adrian closed the door behind him. Give me your phone. What? Your phone. Hand it over. No. Adrian pulled a gun from somewhere behind his back, not pointing it at Ronin, just holding it, casually, like it was part of his outfit. Your phone, Ronin. Now. Ronin pulled out his phone and handed it over. Adrian pocketed it. Then he gestured toward a door on the left. Study. Move. Ronin walked. The study was smaller than the rest of the house, but still impressive. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk made from dark wood, leather chairs, a fireplace with actual logs burning. Adrian closed the door behind them. Sit. I'll stand. That wasn't a request. The gun was still in Adrian's hand. Ronin sat. Adrian walked to the desk and leaned against it, gun resting on his thigh. You're stupider than I thought, Adrian said. I need to talk to her. Why? Because she needs to know what you're doing. Which is? Killing people. Marcus Chen, Jimmy Russo, Teresa Vance, the prosecutor, the investigator I hired. Adrian nodded slowly. You've been busy. Did you do it? Does it matter? Yes. Why? Will it change anything? Ronin leaned forward. She needs to know. Why? So she can feel guilty? So she can blame herself for the actions I took to protect her? So she can make her own choices. Adrian laughed. Actually, laughed. You don't get it, do you? Iris doesn't want choices. She wants safety. She wants to wake up every morning knowing no one is going to hurt her, that no one is going to manipulate her or gaslight her or make her feel like she's losing her mind. I never, Yes, you did. You absolutely did. You took a strong, brilliant woman and you spent 2 years trying to break her down into something manageable, something you could control. Ronin's jaw clenched. And when she finally escaped, Adrian continued, she was so broken she tried to end her own life. Did Daddy Reeves tell you that part? Yes. Good. So you understand. You destroyed her. I saved her. And now I protect her. From everyone, including you. By murdering people? By eliminating threats. They weren't threats. Marcus Chen was coming to kill you. I know because I was watching him. He bought a gun 3 weeks ago. He'd been following you, learning your patterns. He was planning to shoot you in your apartment building parking lot. Ronin's stomach turned. You're lying. I have photos, video. I can show you if you'd like. Why would Marcus want to kill me? Because you're the reason he went to prison. Because you destroyed his life. Because he spent 3 years in a cage thinking about revenge. Adrian stood up and walked to the fireplace. Jimmy Russo was planning to blackmail you. He had information about offshore accounts you didn't disclose to the feds. He was going to force you to pay him or he'd turn you in and you'd go to prison. How do you know that? Because I know everything. It's my job. What is your job? Adrian turned to face him. I fix problems. For people who can't fix them themselves. You're a killer. I'm a professional. There's a difference. Not to the people you've murdered. Those people made choices. Bad choices. They chose to become threats. I responded accordingly. Ronin stood up. Iris wouldn't want this. Iris doesn't know, and she never will, unless you tell her. I will. No, you won't. Adrian raised the gun, not pointing it at Ronin yet, just lifting it, making it visible, making the threat clear. Sit down, Ronin. Shoot me then. Let her hear the gunshot. Let her come running down here and find my body. Let her see what you really are. Adrian's expression didn't change. I'm not going to shoot you. That would be messy, loud, traumatic for Iris. Then what are you going to do? I'm going to give you a choice. What choice? You can leave. Right now. Get in your car, drive south, change your name, start over somewhere else, and I'll let you live. Or you can stay. Try to tell Iris the truth, and I'll have you arrested for Marcus Chen's murder. Ronin's blood went cold. I didn't kill Marcus. No, but the evidence says you did. Your fingerprints are on shell casings found at the scene. Your DNA is on his clothes. Your car was captured on a traffic camera 3 blocks away at the time of the murder. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible if you know the right people. You framed me. I created insurance, in case you became a problem. Ronin couldn't breathe. You've been planning this. Since the moment I realized Iris still had feelings for you. Yes. She doesn't. She does. She won't admit it. Maybe not even to herself. But I see it. The way she looks at her phone sometimes like she's expecting you to call. The way she goes quiet when your name comes up. The way she asked me once, just once, if I knew how you were doing. Adrian walked closer. She still loves you, Ronin, and that makes you the most dangerous person in her life. Because if you showed up and asked her to leave with you, she might actually do it. I'm not asking her to leave. No, you're just asking her to hate herself for staying. The words hit hard. I'm giving her information. What she does with it is her choice. She'll blame herself. She'll think she's responsible for those deaths. She'll spiral. And then I'll have to put her back together again. And I'm tired, Ronin. I'm tired of fixing the damage you left behind. Then let her go. Adrian's eyes flashed. Never. You're keeping her prisoner. I'm keeping her safe. There's a difference. Not to me. Adrian lowered the gun slightly. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of this house, get in your car, and drive away. And if you ever come near Iris again, I'll destroy you. Not kill you. Destroy you. I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison for murders you didn't commit. I'll make sure everyone you've ever cared about knows exactly what you are. I'll erase every good thing you've ever done and make you into a monster. I already am a monster. No, you're just a man who made mistakes, but I can make you into something worse. Ronin stared at him. Why are you doing this? Because I love her, and I won't lose her. She's not a possession. Neither are you, but you treated her like one. At least I'm honest about it. Footsteps in the hallway. Both men froze. The door opened. Iris stood in the doorway. Ronin's breath caught. 3 years. He hadn't seen her in 3 years. She looked different. Not worse, not better, just different, older, tired. Hair longer than he remembered. Wearing jeans and a sweater that looked soft and comfortable. No makeup. Barefoot. Beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. She looked at Ronin, then at Adrian, then back at Ronin. What are you doing here? Her voice was quiet, controlled, but he could hear the tremor underneath. I needed to talk to you. About what? Adrian moved slightly, positioning himself between them. He was just leaving, Adrian said. I wasn't asking you. Iris's eyes stayed on Ronin. Why are you here? Because you need to know what he's doing. What who's doing? Adrian, he's been killing people to protect you, to protect me. Iris's face didn't change. Is that true? She wasn't asking Ronin. She was asking Adrian. Adrian hesitated for just a second. Then he nodded. Yes. The room went very still. Ronin had expected shock, horror, anger. But Iris just looked at Adrian with something that might have been sadness. Who? Marcus Chen, a few others. People who were planning to hurt him. Adrian gestured toward Ronin. People who were coming after him because of his past. Why? Because I know how you feel about him, and I couldn't let anything happen to him while you still cared. Iris closed her eyes briefly. Then she opened them and looked at Ronin. You need to leave. Did you hear what I just said? He's killing people. I heard you. And you're okay with it? I didn't say that. Then tell him to stop. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Tell him to stop. Iris stepped into the room fully. She looked smaller than he remembered. Or maybe he was finally seeing her correctly. Adrian, she said quietly, can you give us a minute? No. Please. Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Ronin. 5 minutes. Then I'm coming back in. He walked out and closed the door behind him. Ronin and Iris stood facing each other across the study. 3 years of silence between them. You look terrible, she said finally. You look good. Don't. I'm serious. So am I. Don't do that thing where you try to charm me into forgiving you. I'm not trying to charm you. Then what are you trying to do? I'm trying to save you. She laughed. It was a bitter sound. Save me from what? Adrian? The man who found me when I was dying? The man who called the ambulance? The man who sat with me in the hospital for 3 days until I woke up? He's killing people, Iris. I know. The casualness of it stunned him. You know? I've known for months. And you're staying with him? Yes. Why? Because he's never lied to me. Because he's never tried to make me smaller. Because when I told him I needed space, he gave it to me. When I told him I needed time, he waited. When I told him I didn't want to get married, he accepted it. He's a murderer. So were you. You just paid people to do it for you. The accusation hit like a slap. That's not fair, isn't it? You ran an organization that destroyed lives, that ruined families, that pushed people into desperation. How many people died because of the drugs you moved, the money you laundered, the deals you made? I never killed anyone. You just created the conditions for it, and then you acted like your hands were clean because you weren't holding the gun. Ronin's throat tightened. I'm trying to be better. Are you? Or are you just trying to feel better about yourself? I came here to warn you. Why? So I'd be grateful? So I'd see you as some kind of hero? No, because you deserve to know the truth. I already knew the truth. Adrian told me everything, months ago. And you stayed. Yes. Why? Iris walked to the window and looked out at the dark snow-covered grounds. Because I love him. The words cut deeper than anything else could have. You don't mean that. Don't tell me what I mean. He's manipulating you. He's protecting me. By killing people? By making sure I never have to be afraid again. She turned back to face him. Do you know what it's like to be afraid all the time? To wake up every morning wondering if today is the day he's going to snap? If today is the day he's going to decide you're not good enough? If today is the day he's going to hurt you? I never hurt you. Yes, you did. Every day. With every comment about what I was wearing, every question about where I was going, every time you checked my phone, every time you made me feel like I was losing my mind. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to own me. There's a difference. Ronin's hands were shaking. I'm sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix anything. I've changed. Have you, or have you just gotten quieter about who you are? I'm not the same person. Neither am I. She walked closer to him, close enough that he could see the faint lines around her eyes, the silver thread in her hair that hadn't been there 3 years ago. I tried to kill myself because of you, she said quietly. I know. Your father told me. Good. You should know. You should carry that because I carry it. Every single day. I wake up and I remember what I did. And I remember why I did it. And I remember that I was so destroyed by you that death felt like relief. Tears were running down her face, but her voice stayed steady. And then Adrian found me. And he saved me. And he put me back together piece by piece. And he never once asked me to be anything other than what I was. He's killing people for you. I know, and I hate it, but I hate you more for making it necessary. It's not necessary. Yes, it is. Because people like Marcus Chen wanted to hurt you. And if they hurt you, I would have blamed myself. Because despite everything, despite how much you destroyed me, part of me still loves you. And Adrian knows that. And he's doing what he has to do to make sure I never have to feel that guilt. That's insane. That's love. That's not love. That's obsession. And you would know, wouldn't you? The door opened. Adrian stepped back inside. Time's up. He looked at Iris. You okay? She nodded. He looked at Ronin. Leave. Now. Iris? Go, Ronin. Her voice was firm, final. Please. You came here to warn me. You warned me. Now go. I can help you. You can't even help yourself. Adrian took a step forward. Last chance. Ronin looked at Iris one more time. She was crying, but her face was hard, closed. He'd lost her, not 3 years ago, right now, in this moment. He'd driven all this way and thrown himself into the fire, and it hadn't changed anything. She'd chosen Adrian. Not because she didn't know the truth, but because she knew it and didn't care. Because Adrian's twisted, protective love was still better than what Ronin had given her. He turned and walked toward the door. Adrian followed him. In the entryway, Adrian handed him his phone back. If I see you again, Adrian said quietly, I'll kill you. Not frame you, kill you. And I'll make it look like suicide. And everyone will believe it because men like you always end up eating a bullet eventually. Ronin took his phone. She's going to leave you. Maybe, but it won't be for you. Ronin walked out into the cold. Behind him, he heard the door close. Lock. He stood in the snow for a moment. Then he walked to his car, got in, started the engine, and sat there. He couldn't move, couldn't think. His entire world had just collapsed, and he was sitting in a car outside the house where the woman he loved was choosing to stay with a murderer because the murderer treated her better than he ever had. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I'm sorry you had to see that. Lucia. How did you know? I have cameras. I've been watching. Why didn't you stop me? Because you needed to see it. You needed to understand that there's no going back, no redemption, no happy ending. She knew. She knew what he was doing. Yes. And she stayed. Yes. Why? Because he makes her feel safe, and you never did. Another message. Leave now, Ronin, before Adrian changes his mind about letting you walk away. Ronin put the car in drive. He pulled out of the circular driveway, started down the long road toward the main highway. His hands were shaking. His vision was blurring. He couldn't tell if it was tears or exhaustion or both. Halfway down the driveway, his phone rang. Unknown number again. He answered. Hello? Mr. Vex, this is Detective Brennan. His stomach dropped. What? We have a warrant for your arrest for the murder of Marcus Chen. That's not possible. The evidence says otherwise. Where are you right now? I didn't kill him. Then you'll have a chance to prove that in court. But right now I need you to turn yourself in. Adrian Hale framed me. Who? Adrian Hale. He killed Marcus. He's been killing people. He told me. He framed me. Mr. Vex, are you okay? You sound upset. I'm telling you the truth. Come to the station. We'll sort this out. If I come to the station, you'll arrest me. Yes. But if you run, it'll be worse. He hung up. His phone buzzed immediately. Text from Adrian. I told you I had insurance. The police have everything they need. You have two choices. Turn yourself in and spend the rest of your life in prison. Or run. You're a monster. No. I'm a man who protects what's mine. You're the monster. I just made sure everyone else sees it too. Another message. You have 10 minutes before every cop in the state is looking for you. Run, Ronin, or don't. Either way, you'll never see Iris again. Ronin pulled over to the side of the road. His chest was tight. He couldn't breathe. He was trapped. If he ran, he'd be a fugitive. If he turned himself in, he'd go to prison for a murder he didn't commit. If he stayed, Adrian would probably kill him anyway. There was no good choice. No way out. He sat there in the dark with the engine running and the snow falling and his entire life crumbling into dust around him. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, Ronin Vex understood that he was going to lose everything. Not because of what he'd done, but because of who he'd been. And no amount of sorry would ever be enough to change that. And the woman he loved was going to spend the rest of her life with a man who killed for her. And she was going to be okay with it, because anything was better than what Ronin had made her feel. And now the only choice left was between prison and running. And he had exactly 8 minutes to decide which kind of hell he wanted to live in. Before the police arrived and made the decision for him, Ronin sat in his car on the side of the road with the engine running and his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles had gone white. 7 minutes, maybe less now. The phone sat in the cup holder like a loaded gun. He could hear his pulse in his ears. Thunder without the storm, run or surrender, those were his choices. Prison for a murder he didn't commit, or life as a fugitive with every cop in the state hunting him. Either way, he'd never see her again. Either way, Adrian won. His phone buzzed. Text from Lucia. My father wants to help you. Call him. Now. He picked up the phone, hands shaking so badly he almost dropped it. He called the last number that had contacted him. Thomas Reeves answered on the first ring. Where are you? Side of the road. Maybe 5 miles from your daughter's house. The police are looking for you. I know. Adrian framed you. I know that too. Then you understand you're out of options. Ronin closed his eyes. What do you want from me? I want you to disappear right now. I have a place you can go. Off the grid. Canada. Small town. New identity. Everything you need. Why would you help me? Because Adrian needs to believe you're gone. Completely gone. And if you go to prison, there's still a chance Iris will visit you. Still a chance she'll feel guilty. Still a chance you remain in her life. And if I disappear, then it's over. Clean break. She can heal completely. She chose him. She chose safety. There's a difference. Ronin opened his eyes and stared out at the dark road ahead. I can't run. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not anymore. You're out of time. In the distance, Ronin could hear sirens, faint, getting louder. They're coming, Thomas said. In 3 minutes, they'll be on you. Make a decision. If I run, does she ever find out the truth? What truth? That Adrian killed those people. That he framed me, that none of this was real. She already knows. But does anyone else? Do the police? Does anyone who can stop him? Silence on the line. No, Thomas said finally. Adrian is very careful, very connected. No one will ever prove what he's done. Then I need to prove it. You can't. Not from prison, not from Canada. You're done, Ronin. Not yet. He hung up. The sirens were closer now. Maybe a mile away, maybe less. He pulled back onto the road and started driving. Not away from the sirens, toward them. His mind was racing. Adrian had framed him perfectly. Evidence planted, timeline established, witnesses probably lined up. But there was one thing Adrian hadn't counted on. Ronin had nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous kind. He drove fast, pushing the Toyota harder than it had been pushed in years. The engine rattled, the heater wheezed, but it held. 2 police cars passed him going the opposite direction, heading toward Holloway Ridge, looking for him where he'd been. Not where he was going. He had maybe 10 minutes before they figured it out. He pulled out his phone and dialed while driving one-handed. The number he deleted 3 years ago but still remembered. It rang 4 times. Then a woman's voice answered. Who is this? Carol? It's Ronin Vex. Silence. What do you want? Carol Mitchell, wife of the federal prosecutor Adrian had murdered. I know how your husband died. Heart attack, I was there. No, murder. Made to look like a heart attack. You're insane. I can prove it. How? Meet me. 20 minutes. The coffee shop on LaSalle where we used to meet. I'm not meeting you anywhere. Your husband was murdered because of me, because Adrian Hale didn't want him looking into my case again. If you want justice, meet me. If you don't, hang up and I'll disappear forever. He could hear her breathing, thinking. 20 minutes, she said. The line went dead. Ronin drove. The coffee shop was still there. Same red awning, same hand-painted sign, same window booths where he'd sat across from Prosecutor Mitchell 3 years ago and negotiated the terms of his cooperation. He parked in back, got out, walked around to the front entrance. Inside, the place was nearly empty. Late night on Christmas. Only the desperate and the lonely were out. Carol Mitchell sat in the corner booth. She looked older than he remembered. Gray hair instead of brown. Lines around her mouth that hadn't been there before. Grief did that. Aged you faster than time ever could. He slid into the booth across from her. You have 5 minutes, she said. Your husband was going to reopen my case. How do you know that? Because someone told me. Someone who knew. Someone who wanted me to understand why he had to die. Who? Adrian Hale. He's been eliminating anyone who might threaten someone I used to be involved with. Marcus Chen, Jimmy Russo, Teresa Vance, your husband, a private investigator. All of them killed to protect her. Protect her from what? From me. From my past. From anything that might bring me back into her life. Carol leaned back. You're telling me my husband was murdered by some lovesick psychopath? Yes. And you have proof? Adrian confessed to me, tonight, in his house. Then you recorded it. No. Then you have nothing. I have his patterns, dates, times, connections between victims. If we go to the police won't listen to you. You're about to be arrested for murder. I was framed. Everyone in prison says that. Ronin leaned forward. Your husband was a good man. He didn't deserve to die because some billionaire decided he was a threat. And if you let this go, Adrian will keep doing it. He'll keep killing, because that's what he does. He solves problems, permanently. Carol's jaw tightened. What do you want from me? Help me prove it. How? Your husband kept files, case notes, evidence logs. Somewhere in there is proof that he was looking into my case again. Emails, phone records, something that connects him to the people Adrian killed. Even if I found that, it doesn't prove Adrian killed him. No, but it establishes motive, it creates doubt. And doubt is all we need to start unraveling everything. We? You want justice. I want to stop him. We're on the same side. We're not on the same side. You're a criminal who destroyed lives. I know what I am, but your husband didn't die because of what I did. He died because Adrian Hale is a monster who gets away with murder because he's rich and connected and no one questions him. Carol stared at him. You're asking me to break into my dead husband's files. I'm asking you to find the truth. And if I do, if I find something, then what? Then we go to the media. We go to the feds. We make enough noise that someone has to investigate. They'll destroy you. I'm already destroyed. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. My husband kept everything on an encrypted server. I have access. Give me a name. I'll search for it. Adrian Hale. Her fingers moved across the screen. Minutes passed. Then her face changed. What? Ronin said. There's a file, dated 3 weeks before he died. What's in it? She read silently. Then she looked up. He was investigating Adrian Hale for racketeering, money laundering, possible connections to organized crime. He had subpoenaed bank records, phone records. He was building a case. Ronin's heart was hammering. Print it. Everything. Right now. I can't print from my phone. Email it to yourself, to me, to everyone you know. Make copies. Make it impossible for them to bury. She was already typing. Done. Send me everything. She sent the files. Ronin's phone buzzed as they arrived. 30 pages of documents, evidence, proof. Not of murder, not yet, but proof that Adrian Hale had a reason to want Prosecutor Mitchell dead. This isn't enough to convict him, Carol said. No, but it's enough to start asking questions. Questions that will get you killed. Probably. Then why are you doing this? Ronin looked at her. Because someone has to. His phone rang. Detective Brennan. He answered. Where are you, Mr. Vex? Drinking coffee? We have a warrant. I know. Then turn yourself in. I didn't kill Marcus Chen. Then prove it in court. I was framed by Adrian Hale. He's killed 5 people, maybe more, and he's going to keep killing unless someone stops him. Mr. Vex. Check your email. Carol Mitchell just sent you files from her husband's investigation. Adrian Hale was being investigated for racketeering. Prosecutor Mitchell died 3 weeks after opening that file. Heart attack. Except it wasn't a heart attack. You're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense. You're just not listening. Adrian Hale is a professional killer who eliminates threats. Prosecutor Mitchell was a threat. Marcus Chen was a threat. I'm a threat. And if you don't investigate this, more people will die. Where are you right now? Goodbye, detective. He hung up. Carol was staring at him. You just committed suicide. Probably. They'll arrest you the moment they find you. I know. So what's your plan? I don't have one. That's a terrible plan. It's the only one I've got. She stood up. My husband would have hated this. The chaos. The recklessness. Your husband would have wanted the truth. Yes, he would have. She pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. That's my lawyer, David Chen. Call him when they arrest you. Tell him I sent you. He'll help. Why? Because my husband spent his entire career putting criminals in prison, and he would have been horrified to see an innocent man go down for something he didn't do. She walked toward the door, then stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, I hope you're right. I hope Adrian Hale burns for this. He will. And you? I'll burn too, but at least I'll take him with me. She left. Ronin sat alone in the booth. His phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. You just made a very stupid mistake. Good. The police are looking for you. The media will have your face on every channel by morning. You'll be the most wanted man in the state. I know. Then you know you've lost. Not yet. What are you planning, Ronin? I'm going to destroy you. With what? Prosecutor Mitchell's files? That's not evidence of murder. That's evidence of an investigation that went nowhere. It's enough to make people ask questions. No one will ask questions. I'm Adrian Hale. I'm untouchable. Everyone's touchable. Not me. I've spent 20 years building walls, buying people, creating leverage. You can't touch me without destroying yourself. I'm already destroyed. No, you're just broken. There's a difference. But if you keep pushing, I'll make sure you're dead. You'll have to catch me first. Ronin stood up and walked out of the coffee shop. The cold hit him immediately. Snow falling harder now, thick flakes that stuck to everything. He got in his car and started driving. No destination, just movement. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Vex, this is David Chen, Carol Mitchell's attorney. She told me you might need representation. I do. Are you guilty of murdering Marcus Chen? No. Can you prove it? Not yet. Then we have a problem. I have evidence that Adrian Hale has been killing people. I have motive. I have pattern. I have everything except physical proof of murder. That's not enough. It's a start that ends with you in prison. So what do I do? Turn yourself in. Let me negotiate. Maybe we can work out a deal. No deals. I want Adrian Hale arrested. That's not going to happen. Why not? Because men like Adrian Hale don't get arrested. They get investigated. They get questioned. They hire expensive lawyers who make everything disappear. And then life goes on, and they keep doing what they've always done. Not this time. Mr. Vex, or Shbutika, I'm not turning myself in until Adrian Hale is in custody. Then you're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. He hung up. His hands were shaking again. He'd just burned every bridge. Pissed off the police. Ignored his lawyer. Declared war on a man who had infinite resources and zero conscience. This was insane. This was suicide. But it was also the only move left. Because if he went to prison now, Adrian would win. Iris would spend the rest of her life with a murderer. And everyone would forget what Adrian had done because that's what happened to inconvenient truths. They disappeared. He drove north, back toward Holloway Ridge, back toward the house where Iris was probably asleep next to the man who'd killed for her. He wasn't going to knock on the door this time. He wasn't going to ask for permission. He was going to end this. One way or another. The roads were empty. Just him and the snow and the darkness. After 40 minutes, he reached the turnoff. Private property. No trespassing. He kept driving. Slower this time. No headlights. Just the dim glow of the moon through clouds. The house appeared through the trees, still lit, still warm, still perfect. He parked a quarter-mile away and approached on foot. The snow was deep here, nearly to his knees. Each step took effort. His breath came out in white clouds. His face was numb. His hands were numb. But his mind was clear, clearer than it had been in years. He reached the edge of the property, crouched behind a tree, watched the house. Two figures moved past a downstairs window, Iris and Adrian, talking. He couldn't hear them, couldn't read their lips, but he could see their body language. Adrian was agitated, gesturing. Iris was calm, listening. Then she touched his arm, said something. Adrian relaxed slightly, nodded, pulled her close, kissed her forehead. Ronin looked away. His chest felt tight. He forced himself to breathe. He needed to think. Adrian was armed, probably always armed. The house probably had security, cameras, alarms, maybe guards. This was a fortress. And Ronin was one man with nothing but rage and desperation. His phone vibrated. Text from Lucia. I know you're here. I can see you on the cameras. He looked around, spotted the small black dome mounted on a tree 30 feet away. Go home, Ronin. No. You're going to get yourself killed. Good. I'm serious. Adrian has already called the police. They'll be here in 10 minutes. Then I have 10 minutes. To do what? To finish this. How? He didn't answer. He stood up and started walking toward the house. Out in the open now. No more hiding. If Adrian was watching the cameras, he'd see him coming. Good. Let him see. Let him know this wasn't over. He reached the front door, raised his hand to knock. The door opened. Adrian stood there with a gun pointed at Ronin's chest. I told you what would happen if you came back. Shoot me. Don't tempt me. I'm not tempting you. I'm giving you permission. Shoot me. Right here, right now. Let Iris hear it. Let her come downstairs and see my body. Let her finally understand what you really are. Adrian's jaw tightened. Get off my property. No. The police are coming. I know. They'll arrest you. I know that too. Then what's your play here, Ronin? What do you think you're going to accomplish? I'm going to tell the truth. To everyone, the police, the media, anyone who'll listen. I'm going to tell them what you did, and I'm going to keep telling them until someone believes me. No one will believe you. Maybe not, but I'm going to make enough noise that someone has to investigate. And when they investigate, they'll find the holes, the inconsistencies, the evidence you couldn't quite erase. There is no evidence. There's always evidence. You can't kill 5 people without leaving something behind. Adrian stepped closer. You're bluffing. Try me. If I shoot you right now, it's self-defense. You're a wanted man who broke into my property. I was protecting my family. Then do it. Adrian's finger tightened on the trigger. For a second, Ronin thought he might actually do it. Then Iris appeared behind Adrian. Stop! Adrian didn't lower the gun. Go back inside. No. Iris, I said no. She walked forward until she was standing next to Adrian, looking at Ronin. Why are you here? Because someone has to stop him. He doesn't need to be stopped. Yes, he does. He's killed 5 people, maybe more, and he's going to keep killing as long as you're with him. Those people were threats. They were human beings. They were threats to you, and I'm tired, Ronin. I'm tired of worrying about whether someone from your past is going to show up and drag you back into that life. I'm tired of wondering if you're okay. I'm tired of still caring about you when I should hate you. Her voice broke. So yes, Adrian killed them, and yes, I knew. And yes, I'm okay with it, because for the first time in my life, I feel safe, and I'm not giving that up. Not for you, not for anyone. You're not safe. You're trapped. I'm protected. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Not to me. Sirens in the distance, getting louder. Adrian smiled. Time's up. Good, Ronin said. He pulled out his phone, held it up so they could see the screen. He'd been recording the entire conversation, every word. What is that? Adrian said. Insurance. You recorded us? Yes. And I already sent it to 3 different journalists, and Carol Mitchell, and Detective Brennan, and a dozen other people who will make sure it gets seen. Adrian's face went pale. That's inadmissible. Maybe. But it's enough to start asking questions, enough to make you a suspect, enough to destroy your perfect life. You can't prove anything. I don't have to prove anything. I just have to create doubt. And doubt is all it takes to tear down a man like you. Adrian lunged forward. Ronin stepped back. The gun went off, loud crack that echoed across the snow. Ronin felt the bullet tear through his shoulder, felt the impact spin him sideways, felt the hot burn spread across his chest. He fell. Hit the snow hard. Couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Above him, Iris was screaming. What did you do? What did you do? Adrian was staring at his own hand like it belonged to someone else. He was going to destroy us. You shot him. He recorded us. I don't care. You shot him. The sirens were right on top of them now, red and blue lights flashing through the trees. Ronin's vision was blurring. He could taste copper, feel the cold seeping into his bones. This was it. This was how it ended. Not in prison, not running, but bleeding out in the snow outside the house where the woman he loved had chosen another man. He tried to laugh. It came out as a cough, blood on his lips. Iris was kneeling beside him now, her hands on his chest, pressing down, trying to stop the bleeding. Stay with me. He looked up at her. I'm sorry. Shut up. For everything, I'm sorry. Shut up and stay awake. I tried to save you. You tried to destroy everything, like always. Yeah. His eyes were closing. Ronin. Ronin, look at me. He forced them open. She was crying. He'd never seen her cry like this, not even at the end. I loved you, he said. I know. I did it wrong. I know, but I loved you. I know. Police officers were everywhere now, shouting, weapons drawn. Adrian was on the ground, hands behind his head. Someone was yelling at Iris to step away. She didn't move. I can't let you die. Why? Because then you win. He almost smiled. How? Because if you die like this, you're a martyr. And I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I made the right choice. You did. Did I? His vision was darkening, edges going black. Ronin, stay awake. He couldn't. The cold was everywhere now, inside him, around him, and the last thing he saw before everything went dark was Iris's face above him, streaked with tears, and the knowledge that he'd finally done something right. He'd made her see, even if it cost him everything. She finally saw what Adrian really was, and maybe that was enough. Maybe that was the only redemption he'd ever get. And then the darkness took him completely. Ronin woke up to the sound of machines beeping, steady rhythm, mechanical breathing that wasn't his own. He tried to open his eyes. The light was too bright. White ceiling, white walls, white sheets, hospital. He was alive. That surprised him. He'd been so sure he was dying in the snow, so sure that darkness was permanent. Pain hit him then, sharp and immediate. His shoulder felt like it was on fire. He tried to move and immediately regretted it. Don't! A woman's voice, not Iris. He turned his head slowly. A nurse stood beside his bed, checking the IV line in his arm. You've been out for 2 days, she said. The bullet tore through your shoulder, missed the artery by half an inch. You're lucky to be alive. Don't feel lucky. You will, once the morphine wears off. She adjusted something on the machine beside his bed. There are police outside. They want to talk to you. About what? I don't ask those kinds of questions. That's above my pay grade. She left. Ronin lay there staring at the ceiling. 2 days. What had happened in 2 days? Was Adrian arrested? Did the recording work? Did anyone believe him? The door opened again. Detective Brennan walked in. She looked tired. More tired than when he'd seen her at the station. She pulled up a chair and sat down beside his bed. Mr. Vex. Detective. You've had an interesting week. That's one way to put it. Adrian Hale is in custody, charged with attempted murder, and we're investigating him for the deaths of Marcus Chen, Prosecutor Mitchell, and 3 others. Ronin's chest tightened. You believe me. The recording helped. So did Carol Mitchell's files, and once we started digging, we found other things. Financial records, phone records, evidence that Adrian Hale has been paying people to make problems disappear for years. Will it stick? I don't know. His lawyers are very good, but we have enough to make his life difficult. Very difficult. She leaned back in the chair. You should know that the charges against you have been dropped. The evidence that framed you for Marcus Chen's murder was fabricated. We found proof that Adrian planted your DNA at the scene, your fingerprints on the shell casings, all of it. So I'm free? You're free, though I'd recommend staying out of trouble for a while. I'll try. Try harder. She stood up. For what it's worth, you did the right thing, even if you did it in the stupidest way possible. That's my specialty. Apparently, she walked toward the door, then stopped. Iris Vale gave a statement. She confirmed everything you said about Adrian, about the murders, about the control. Ronin's throat closed. Where is she? Protective custody, until the trial. Adrian's associates might try to silence her. Is she okay? Brennan looked at him for a long moment. No, but she's alive, which is more than I can say for a lot of people in this mess. She left. Ronin closed his eyes. Iris had confirmed everything, which meant she'd turned on Adrian, which meant she'd chosen the truth over safety, which meant maybe, just maybe, he'd actually accomplished something, even if it destroyed them both. 3 days later, they released him from the hospital. No fanfare, no press conference. Just a nurse with discharge papers and instructions to follow up with his doctor in 2 weeks. He walked out into the cold afternoon air. Someone had brought his car to the hospital parking lot. He had no idea who. He got in and sat there for a while. His shoulder hurt. Everything hurt. But he was alive. And Adrian was in custody. And Iris was safe. That had to count for something. He drove to his apartment. Inside, everything was exactly as he'd left it. Dishes in the sink. Clothes on the floor. the smell of mildew and neglect. He'd been gone less than a week, but it felt like years. He sat on the edge of his bed and pulled out his phone. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails from reporters wanting interviews, texts from people he hadn't heard from in years suddenly interested in his story. One text from his mother. "I saw the news. Call me when you can." He called her. She answered immediately. "Ronin." "Hi, Mama." "You got shot." "Yeah. You could have died." "I know. And you didn't call me?" "I was unconscious." "Don't be smart. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "That's a lie." "Yeah." She was quiet for a moment. "Did you see her?" He knew who she meant. "Yeah." And she chose the truth. She's testifying against him. Good. Is it? Yes. It means she's finally free. Free and destroyed. Better destroyed and honest than whole and living a lie. He rubbed his face with his free hand. "I don't know what to do now." "You heal. You rest. You figure out who you want to be." "I don't know who that is anymore." "Then you have time to figure it out." They talked for another 20 minutes. Small things. Normal things. The weather, her garden, the neighbors. Things that had nothing to do with murder or betrayal or gunshot wounds. When they hung up, Ronin felt slightly less hollow. Slightly. 2 weeks passed. He went to physical therapy for his shoulder, met with David Chen to prepare for potential testimony in Adrian's trial, ignored calls from journalists, tried to build some kind of normal routine. Wake up, coffee, therapy, lunch, walk, dinner, sleep. Repeat. It was boring. It was quiet. It was exactly what he needed. One morning, there was a knock on his door. He opened it. Lucia stood in the hallway. She looked different than she had in the park. Softer, less sharp. "Can I come in?" He stepped aside. She walked into his apartment and looked around. "This is depressing." "I know. You should get a plant or something." "Plants die when I look at them." She almost smiled. Then she pulled an envelope from her jacket. "Iris asked me to give you this." His heart stopped. "Why didn't she come herself?" "Because she's not ready to see you. And honestly, I don't think she ever will be." "Why not?" "Because seeing you hurts. Because you're a reminder of everything she survived. Because loving you nearly killed her, and she's finally learning how to live again." Lucia set the envelope on the table. "She wanted you to know she's grateful for what you did, for stopping Adrian, for giving her a way out." "I didn't do it for gratitude." "I know. You did it because you still love her." "Yeah." "Does she know that?" "Probably." "And it doesn't change anything." "No." Lucia looked at him for a long moment. "You're not a good man, Ronin, but you're trying to be, and that's more than most people manage." "That's a low bar." "It's the only bar that matters." She walked toward the door. "Take care of yourself." "You too." She left. Ronin stood alone in his apartment staring at the envelope. White paper. His name written in Iris's handwriting. He'd recognize that handwriting anywhere. He sat down and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No date, no greeting, just words. "Ronin, I don't know how to write this. I've started and stopped a dozen times. Thrown away drafts, deleted messages. Tried to find the right words and realized there aren't any. So I'll just say what I need to say. Thank you for saving me. Again. Even though I didn't ask for it, even though it nearly killed you, even though I told you to leave, you stayed, and you fought, and you gave me a way out of something I didn't even know I needed to escape. Adrian wasn't a monster, not at first. He was kind, patient, everything you weren't. He saved me when I was dying, and I convinced myself that gratitude was the same as love, that safety was the same as happiness, that being protected was the same as being free. I was wrong. He loved me the way you loved me, with obsession, with control. Just quieter, just cleaner, just better at hiding it. And I let him. Because I was so tired of fighting, so tired of being afraid, so tired of wondering if I was strong enough to survive on my own. You forced me to see the truth, and I hate you for it. Because ignorance was easier, because pretending was safer, because now I have to rebuild everything again. But I'm also grateful. Because I'm alive, and my daughter is safe, and we're free. I don't forgive you for what you did to me. I don't think I ever will. But I understand now that you were broken too, that you were trying to love me the only way you knew how, and that your brokenness broke me. We destroyed each other, Ronin, and there's no coming back from that. So this is goodbye. Not the angry goodbye from 3 years ago. Not the desperate goodbye from the hospital, just goodbye. I hope you find peace. I hope you learn how to love someone without destroying them. I hope you figure out who you are when you're not trying to own someone else. And I hope you understand that I can't be part of that journey, that seeing you hurts too much, that I need to let you go completely if I'm ever going to heal. Take care of yourself. Iris Ronin read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. He walked to the window and looked out at the street below. Snow was falling again, light flakes that drifted slowly down and melted on contact. This was the end, the real end. Not dramatic, not explosive, just quiet acceptance. She was gone. Not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much to let him back in. And he understood. For the first time in his life, he actually understood. Love wasn't about holding on, it was about knowing when to let go. He pulled out his phone and typed a message. Not to Iris, to himself. A reminder. A promise. Be better. 2 words. That's all it took. Be better. Not perfect. Not redeemed. Just better than yesterday. Better than the man who'd destroyed her. Better than the man who'd tried to own her. Better. He saved the note and put his phone away. Then he grabbed his coat and walked out into the snow. Adrian Hale's trial began 6 weeks later. Ronin didn't attend. He watched the news coverage from his apartment while eating takeout and trying not to think too hard about what it all meant. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution presented evidence of 5 murders. Marcus Chen, Prosecutor Mitchell, Jimmy Russo, Teresa Vance, the private investigator. They had financial records showing payments to known criminals. They had phone records placing Adrian at or near each crime scene. They had testimony from Iris describing Adrian's obsessive behavior and his confessions. They had Ronin's recording. Adrian's defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that Ronin was a disgraced criminal with an axe to grind, that Iris was a traumatized woman who'd been manipulated into betraying her partner, that the recording was taken illegally and therefore inadmissible. The jury deliberated for 5 days. On the 6th day, they came back with a verdict. Guilty on 3 counts of murder. Not guilty on 2. Hung jury on conspiracy charges. Adrian was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. The news anchors called it a victory for justice. Ronin called it incomplete, but it was something. 3 months after the trial ended, Ronin got a job. Not construction this time. Something different. A community center on the south side needed someone to teach basic financial literacy to people getting out of prison, helping them understand credit, budgets, how to avoid the predatory lending that trapped so many people in cycles of poverty. It paid almost nothing, but it felt right. He was good at it, better than he expected. Turned out spending years laundering money taught you a lot about how money actually worked. And the people he taught appreciated it, actually listened, actually wanted to learn. One evening after class, a young woman approached him, maybe 25, thin, tired eyes, fresh out of county after 18 months for drug possession. Mr. Vex. Yeah? I just wanted to say thank you for today, for all of this. Nobody ever taught me this stuff before. You're welcome. Can I ask you something? Sure. How did you end up here? Teaching us? You were like rich and important and stuff. I saw the news. He considered how to answer. I was rich and I was definitely involved in stuff, but I wasn't important. I just thought I was. And it took losing everything to figure out the difference. She nodded slowly. So you think people can change? I think people can try. Whether they succeed is a different question. You trying? Every day. She smiled slightly. That's good. That's real good. She left. Ronin packed up his materials and walked out into the evening air. Spring now. The snow was gone. The city looked different in warmer weather. Not better, just different. He walked to a coffee shop 3 blocks away. Same one where he'd met Carol Mitchell. Ordered a coffee. sat in the corner booth, pulled out his phone and opened the Notes app. The reminder was still there. Be better. He'd read it every day for the past 4 months. Some days it worked, some days it didn't, but he kept trying. That had to count for something. The door opened. A woman walked in with a little girl, maybe 3 years old, dark hair, dark eyes, holding her mother's hand and talking excitedly about something. The woman looked up. Iris. Their eyes met across the coffee shop. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Iris's face hardened slightly. Not angry, just closed. She picked up her daughter and walked to the counter, putting herself between the child and Ronin. Protective. He understood. He stood up, threw away his coffee even though it was still half full, and walked toward the door. As he passed her, she said quietly, "Ronin." He stopped, didn't turn around. "Thank you," she said, "for not making this awkward. I'm trying to be better." "I know. I heard about the community center." "How?" "Lucia keeps tabs on you. Make sure you're not backsliding." "I'm not." "Good." Silence. Then, "She's beautiful. Your daughter." He could hear the smile in Iris's voice. "She is. Her name is Lucia, after my sister." "That's a good name." "Yeah." He started walking again. "Ronin." He stopped. "I'm glad you're trying. I'm glad you're choosing to be better." "Me too. But I need you to understand something." "What?" "This doesn't change anything between us. What you did. What I did. What we were. It's still over. It will always be over." "I know." "Do you?" "Yeah, I know." He could feel her looking at him. Then, "Okay. Goodbye, Ronin." "Goodbye, Iris." He walked out of the coffee shop. Didn't look back, didn't need to. He'd said everything he needed to say, and she'd said everything she needed to say. And now it was done. Really done. Not the explosive ending he'd once imagined, not the romantic reconciliation, not the dramatic gesture. Just two broken people acknowledging they'd destroyed each other and choosing to move forward separately. That was love too. The kind that let go instead of holding on. The kind that said goodbye without bitterness. The kind that hurt but didn't bleed. 6 months later, Ronin moved out of his apartment. Found a small house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms and a yard that needed work. He bought a plant. It lived. That felt significant. He kept teaching at the community center. Started volunteering at a halfway house on weekends. Helped people fill out job applications. Drove them to interviews. Listened when they needed to talk. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the life he'd imagined for himself when he was 25 and building an empire. But it was honest. And honest felt better than he'd expected. One evening, his mother came to visit. She walked through the house slowly, examining everything. "You have a plant," she said. "I have a plant. It's alive." "So far." She smiled. "I'm proud of you." The words hit harder than he expected. For what? For not giving up. For choosing to keep trying, even when it would have been easier to quit. "I quit a lot of things, Mama. But not yourself. You didn't quit yourself. And that matters." They sat on his back porch drinking tea while the sun went down. "Do you still think about her?" Anna asked. "Every day? Does it hurt?" "Yes." "Good." He looked at her. "Good?" "Yes. It means you're human. It means you loved something real, even if you loved it wrong." "I loved it very wrong." "But you loved it, and now you're learning how to love better." "How do you know?" "Because you let her go. Because you're not chasing her. Because you're building a life instead of trying to reclaim an old one." She set down her tea. "That's growth, Ronin. That's what it looks like. It's slow. It's supposed to be." They sat in comfortable silence while the sky turned orange and then purple and then dark. After she left, Ronin sat alone on the porch, pulled out his phone, looked at the reminder. Be better. He added 2 words. Be better. Keep going. Then he put his phone away and went inside. 2 years after Adrian's trial, Ronin was walking home from the community center when he saw a familiar face. Celeste, standing outside a bakery, not the same one where he'd seen her on Christmas Eve. A different one. She was locking the door, keys in hand, tired smile on her face. He almost kept walking, almost decided not to say anything, but then she saw him. Ronin? Hey, what are you doing here? I teach a few blocks away. Financial literacy class. Really? Yeah, turns out I'm not completely useless. She laughed. That's good. That's really good. How are you? Good. Great, actually. Daniel and I got married last year. We bought this place together. Congratulations. Thanks. It's been a lot of work, but we're happy. They stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Celeste said, I heard about what happened with Adrian Hale and Iris. Yeah, that must have been hard. It was necessary. Are you okay? The question surprised him, just like it had surprised him 3 years ago in a different bakery. I'm getting there. That's all anyone can ask for. She pulled out a business card. This is our bakery. If you're ever in the neighborhood, stop by. Coffee's on me. I will. I mean it, Ronin. Stop by. Don't be a stranger. I won't. She walked away. He stood there holding the business card. Such a small gesture, such a normal gesture. The kind of thing that happened between people who'd moved on from their shared history. He tucked the card in his wallet and kept walking. 3 years after Adrian's trial, Ronin received a letter. No return address. Just his name and address, written in handwriting he didn't recognize. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph. Iris standing in a field somewhere, her daughter beside her. Both of them laughing, hair blowing in the wind, the sun behind them making everything golden. On the back of the photo, someone had written, she's happy, she's safe. She wanted you to know. Lucha Ronin stared at the photograph for a long time. Then he put it in a drawer, not hidden, just stored. A memory of something that used to be. He didn't look at it again for months. Didn't need to. Knowing she was happy was enough. 5 years after everything fell apart, Ronin stood in front of a group of 20 people at the community center. His class had grown, more people, more interest, more hope. He taught them about compound interest and predatory lending and how to build credit from nothing. And they listened. Actually listened, because he wasn't some rich guy talking down to them. He was someone who'd lost everything and was still figuring out how to rebuild. Someone who understood what it meant to start over from scratch. After class, a young man approached him, maybe 22, fresh out of state prison, 3 years for armed robbery. Mr. Vex? Yeah? I wanted to ask you something, if that's okay. Sure. Do you think people like us can actually make it, or are we just pretending? Ronin looked at him, really looked at him, saw the fear under the bravado, the desperation under the hope. I think we're all pretending, Ronin said. Everyone, not just people with records. We're all pretending we know what we're doing, pretending we have it together, pretending we're not terrified. So what's the difference between us and them? They had better starting conditions. That's it. That's the only difference. That's not fair. No, it's not. But fair doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with what you have. The young man nodded slowly. What if I fail? Then you try again. What if I keep failing? Then you keep trying until you don't. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's better than giving up. The young man smiled slightly. Thanks, Mr. Vex. Call me Ronin. Thanks, Ronin. He left. Ronin packed up his materials and walked home. The sun was setting, the air was cool, spring turning into summer. His phone buzzed, text from his mother. Dinner this Sunday? I'm making that soup. I'll be there. Bring bread. The good bread. From the expensive bakery? You know it. He smiled. Some things never changed, and that was okay. That night, Ronin sat on his back porch with a beer and watched the stars come out. His shoulder still ached when it rained. His sleep was still broken most nights. His memories still haunted him more often than he'd like. But he was alive, and he was trying. And that was more than he'd had 5 years ago. More than he'd had when he was rich and powerful and destroying everyone around him. He pulled out his phone, opened the Notes app, read the reminder. Be better. Keep going. He added one more line. Be better. Keep going. Don't stop. Then he put his phone away and finished his beer and went inside to sleep. And somewhere far north of the city, in a house he would never see again, Iris Vale tucked her daughter into bed and kissed her forehead and walked downstairs to sit by the fire with a book she'd been meaning to read for months. And the life she'd built after ruin continued quietly forward, one ordinary day at a time, without him. And that was okay. Not happy, not tragic, just okay. Because some stories don't end with redemption or reunion. Some stories end with two broken people choosing to stay broken in different places, choosing to heal separately, choosing to let go. And sometimes that's the only ending that makes sense, the only ending that's honest, the only ending that lasts. And as the city settled into another ordinary night, with all its ordinary people living their ordinary lives, Ronin Vex closed his eyes and dreamed of nothing in particular. No nightmares, no regrets, just the quiet darkness of a man who'd finally stopped running from who he was. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.